This is Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello and welcome to Helping Durham Region. My name's Rob MacArthur. I'm the host of this show, and I'd like to thank our co-producers, the Rotary Club of Ajax, for helping us make this happen. My guest today is Andrew Gucciardi, and he is the Executive Director of Hockey Helps the Homeless. And I really like this one, Helping the Homeless, but I'm from Kingston, Ontario, and we're all about hockey. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Rob. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for welcoming us on the show.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Hockey Helps the Homeless.
Yeah, Hockey Helps the Homeless is an organization that started in 1996. We are a registered charity. And in 96, a group of Toronto businessmen wanted to give back to the homeless population in Toronto. So they had a one-day hockey event at the old Maple Leaf Gardens, and they raised about $8,000. And during that event, they raised the $8,000 and they went out and purchased these survival kits, and then they went out and distributed them to the local homeless population in Toronto.
Okay.
From there, at that time, it was called Hockey for the Homeless. But in '99, Mike Gardner got involved, the Hall of Famer. He's our honorary pro, actually, and the idea of having a pro-am started in '99. So in '99, we changed our name to Hockey Helps the Homeless, and we became a pro-am hockey event or a hockey tournament. So today we have 14 of these events across Canada, from Vancouver to Halifax. We're in Durham Region this year on April 22nd. So we're really happy to be in Durham Region to support the people in need in Durham. And we basically ask players to go out to their network. It's a peer-to-peer fundraising model where they go out and leverage their network to raise money for their local community. They get to play in the event. They get to rub shoulders with the former NHL alumni. And it's a fun day filled with great stories. We've had a lot of success across the country. We've raised over $20 million in the last 25 years for our beneficiary partners. We have over 20,000 donors, 3,000 players, and 1,000 plus volunteers who help us put these events on. So it's been a great ride over the last 25 years. So we hope to
go ahead.
No, we hope that the inaugural tournament in Durham is a success as well. So
right. How long have you been with the organization, Andrew?
I've been here 5 years. I started in a finance role, director of finance, and evolved into the executive director role for the last year and a half almost now.
Okay. And so you're adding Durham, so you're expanding locations across Canada as well, like other places?
For like I mentioned, we have 14 tournaments across the country. Durham is new this year, and Saskatoon is new this year. And March 25th, we're doing our first inaugural Saskatoon event. And Wendell Clark will be at both of those events, at the Saskatoon and at the Durham event. So
nice. Some
exciting times. We hope to get these off the ground. I mean, the pandemic's been a little bit of a disruptor for us, but we've had 5 tournaments this year already. And they've been record tournaments. People have come out in great numbers to support us, and the funding's been excellent so far. So we hope to continue that.
All right. So locations like Durham or others, do they approach you, or are you actively out looking for different locations yourselves?
A lot. It's a little bit of both, but a lot of times we look to a beneficiary partner like Durham Youth Services, right, in this case. So Durham Youth Services. There is that connection. The affinity for hockey is the connection that brings us together. Right. So, and a lot of times the beneficiary will come to us asking for funding. And so we look to put on the event in that city.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. And anybody, so do people submit teams, or can an individual player join a team or things like that?
For the most part, teams are sponsored by companies, and they bring a team in. But there is the option to join as what we call a free agent, or as an individual as an individual player. But the idea is to bring a team in, so you and your team enjoy the day together.
Right. Yeah. My son plays, one of my sons every year plays in one where they have stars, and he's got me pictures and things like that. I don't know if it's hockey for the homeless, but it sounds like it might be. Did you just recently have one in the Toronto area, or?
We had one in York Region, December the 10th.
All righty. And who was the star? Who was the hockey star? Or some of the stars that were there that event?
At that event, we had Keith Acton, Ethan Morrow, to name a few, just to name a few.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like, I think my son might be a regular participant, because every year he joins the team. You know, he's met Wendell Clark, he's Doug Gilmore, he's you know, at these type of events, and got pictures with him. I actually played hockey with Doug when I was a youth. So
is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, so you must have been a good player yourself.
I wasn't bad. I was a defenseman, a stay-at-home defenseman. Those are very few these days. So I mean, you're 14 of them across Canada. That must keep you pretty busy, because I've been on the executive of hockey associations, and tournaments are a lot of work.
They are. They're, I mean, we have a fairly lean team here of 5 individuals at headquarters. It keeps us really busy. On event day or during event season, we're going, we're going from 9 to 9 sometimes, or 8 to 8. So there's long days.
Right. So what do you see in the future? You know, what are some of your objectives? You know, I mean, you're growing, and I guess that's probably the biggest objective in helping more homeless. That type of thing. But growth.
Yeah, our growth. I mean, obviously, to try and grow into more cities. We're not, for example, we're not in Ottawa yet, so we'd like to get started in Ottawa with the tournament. We'd also like to introduce other ways to raise money for homeless communities. And one of them would be like an employee engagement, what we call employee engagement, where we've had companies that have played in the tournament for 10, 15 years, but they've reached an age where they just don't play hockey anymore. So, but they still want to be involved with the cause. There's a company in York Region called Universal Logistics, and one in Mississauga, FCT, First Canadian Title, where they don't play in the tournament. They've played in the past, but they've now raised, they go back to their employees and say, listen, we still want to be a part of this. So let's put together a fundraising incentive plan for you guys to raise money for the cause on event day. And so it could be incentive. They could get a day off if they raise $500 or, you know, things like that. So it's interesting to see how the tournament, people who come to our tournament tend to want to come back. So
do you get a lot of attendance just to come to watch the hockey?
Not so much. There's not a lot of attendance, really. It's really just the people who play in the tournament. It's usually 200 to 250 people on tournament day. So it's a significant number of people, but we don't get many fans, let's say. Other than if we do have a high profile pro, like Wendell Clark, for example, we will get some autograph seekers for sure.
Oh yes, definitely you would. Sounds like a great place to have some silent auctions for sports memorabilia as well, because being a big fan of that stuff. So that's good. Tell me, let's go a little bit into the Durham the tournament that's coming up, you know, how it came to be, and information when it is, and, you know, how people can join in and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Steve White reached out to us. He's on the board of Durham Youth Services, and he really spearheaded this. He's the chair of the event. So with his involvement, we used to have a Durham College event. So we thought Durham would be a great region to do it, because our Durham College event through Durham College was a fairly successful event. It wasn't a pro-am per se. It was just a collegiate tournament amongst students. So Steve reached out, and we thought, Durham would be an obvious choice. It's a big region. You know, there's 8 municipalities. It's got a hockey following. So we decided to start it. And on April 22nd, we will be at Del Park Arena in Oshawa.
Okay.
We look forward to having people join and play. And it is a fun day. And it's a good vehicle for community leaders to support people in need, really.
That's right. So you're actively looking now, and I imagine Steve's working at it. Actually, I was on the board of Durham Youth Services in its second, third, and fourth year. So I know the organization well. So you're actively looking for teams to register for the tournament.
Yes, we are. Yeah. We have about a month to go before our deadline for team entries within a month.
Right.
So we have about 4 teams currently allotted. We hope to get to at least 6, and we'll see what happens. It's a first-year tournament, but once we have these tournaments, they tend to grow exponentially.
Yeah. Yes, and in Durham, Ajax, actually Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and Oshawa are all big hockey towns.
They are.
In that type of thing, and so I would imagine there'd be some people that would like to get into it. For sure. So, and how many teams do you normally have? Like, up is what you look for, 6 or?
Our biggest event has 20 teams.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and we've had events as small as 6 or 8, but for the most part, we're looking to 12 to 14 teams.
Okay. And the tournament, is it sort of round robin or double elimination or?
Everyone, we try and put people in divisions based on ability. So we go through a whole questionnaire. We ask people, are you a high level player, low, entry level player? So we divide the divisions accordingly. Everyone gets 3 games. It's non-competitive. Nice. It's not competitive. It's a non-competitive event. Right. Everyone gets 3 games. You get custom jersey, custom socks. You get breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
You get a participant gift. So there's lots that goes into it. And really, what we've found over the years is people really like to spend time with the pro.
Yes,
and the pros,
definitely.
The pros make the tournament. The pros make the event special and make it an experience for everyone. So a positive experience for everyone. Yes,
and it must be nice for the pros too. I mean, most of them are retired, or I imagine a lot of them are, sort of like the quote old timers. And, to be with fans again, to see the fans, that's got to be really good for them as well.
Oh, I think the thing, if you ask a pro what they miss the most, is being in the locker room with their teammates, right? So they get that. They also get time to share time with other pros during our, which is not always possible after they retire. So it's a good way for them to share in some of the things that they're doing.
And how much does it cost, or generally, for a team to be put in?
The minimum fundraising goal, so every participant is required to raise $500.
Okay.
So once you raise the $500, you're allowed to.
That's definitely, okay. My son's definitely in that, because that's the number he has to raise, and I support him every year. So
there you go.
Well, now I know where the money.
Now you know where it goes.
That's awesome. Well, I really look forward to the event coming to Durham and hearing more about it. And I know, Steve and I talk a lot, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I thank you for joining us and filling us in, because honestly, I had no idea about this organization that's been around for so long. So
thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the Durham tournament and all your other tournaments. And again, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back after the break with our next guest, and it'll be Steve White from Durham Youth Services. You're watching Helping Durham Region here on Rogers TV Durham. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This program is brought to you by NBA League Pass. More dunks, more slams, more to love, live in HD. NBA League Pass, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack.
Calling all journalism students, Omni Television is once again awarding scholarships to qualified students pursuing a career in third language journalism.
When I found out that I won an Omni scholarship, I honestly wasn't expecting it. Winning an Omni scholarship helped me realize that I chose the right career path by pursuing third language journalism.
Omni is home to a variety of locally produced current affairs programs and daily national newscasts, broadcast in 6 languages. To learn more about Omni scholarships, visit omnitv.ca/scholarships.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Hello and welcome back to Helping Durham Region, where we talk to people that help Durham Region. What a concept. My guest right now is Steve White, and he's the Vice President of Durham Youth Services. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, so give us some background on Durham Youth Services, how it came to be and some of the programs and things that it offers.
Sure. So Durham Youth Services was originally known as Joanne's House, and it launched in 2017 in Ajax, which basically was just a residential house that was set up to provide sort of an emergency shelter for youth on the streets in sort of in Ajax mostly, but we did have people come from other parts of Durham. So we do serve the full Durham region. Mm-hmm. But basically, for a number of years, that's sort of how it worked. Sort of youth would kind of come in when things were rough at home. They'd get a bit of a break, and they'd sort of things out, and just sort of worked as an emergency service. A couple of years after that, they opened up a second house, and sort of continued to expand. At that point, the organization sort of realized that it was on a bit of a path to just begin housing youth, and the perception was is if you're having trouble at home, maybe parents say, okay, well, if you don't like how things are going here, maybe a night in the homeless shelter will kind of set you straight and make you sort of realize how great things are at home. And so it became to the point where we sort of began housing more and more and more youth, and it was just sort of like a drop your kid off and let it sort of. What we were finding was that actually started the pattern of homelessness. Once you sort of get in the system, they start making those connections. They start meeting with people that are sort of on the street. They a little bit lax rules, things like that. And so it became a bit of a pattern. And so the organization took a sort of a step back and sort of analyzed that and looked over the numbers and spoke with a lot of the youth and the reasoning. And they sort of came to the realization that the role really should be, as emergency shelter, sort of secondary, be there if you needed to be. But a role really needs to be is to end youth homelessness and to not let youth come into the shelter to begin with. And so we began a shelter diversion program. So we started beginning to work with youth even before, like when sort of trouble was starting to arise. We work with schools and things like that. And social workers. And so we get referred youth. So we try to prevent it. We try to sort of solve the issues at home whenever possible. And when that doesn't happen, there are some circumstances where it's not a healthy environment. And the youth just can't really be at home for a number of reasons. In which case, that's when they could have come to us. And one of our first steps would be to actually divert and find another place for them to go. Somebody within the family, maybe a grandparent, aunt or uncle, something like that. And we found tremendous success with that. And we found instead of sort of housing a youth and continually buying houses and setting them all up in rooms, and you just basically keep buying bunk beds and storing sort of, stacking kids into rooms, you start keeping them within a family caring unit. So a lot of our funding will go to sort of bridging those gaps and solving that problem. So does that mean a $75 cab fare to Peterborough? No problem. We'll sort that out if it means sending a youth to a grandparent to live with for a couple of months while some of the issues get sorted out. So those are kind of the main issues or the main reasons behind, or the reasons that they were sort of doing these works is preventing a lot of these problems before they exist. And if not, then getting them into the shelter, give them in resources and tools that will help them get back on their feet. And if they need to transition into being, living on their own, we help, help guide them through that. We provide them with startup kits, dishes and pots and pans. One of the issues that we're finding is youth, when they sort of get out on their own, if they get if they get a grant or they get some funding, a lot of that goes to just getting set up, just buying their first bit of food, like the dishes and utensils. A lot of the money goes for that, and then they have no money, and then they start struggling, and they're already behind and trying to catch up on rent. So we try to give them as much of a head start as possible. We help with a lot of life skills. Youth kind of without better, proper, information, they'll buy, food that's maybe not as economical. Maybe they'll eat out more often because it's cheaper, but, we'll show them some of the life skills that'll help. Things like how to cook, spaghetti dinner that costs you $1.10 instead of, going to McDonald's and paying $12, right? So all those things that they just don't have, they don't maybe, perhaps they come from a challenging, home situation where a lot of those life skills weren't sort of given to them. So they just don't know. So that's sort of where we come in. We try to find cap. I mean, almost everybody's situation is kind of a little bit unique in some ways. There's sort of, different types, but we try to work with each youth. There's a lot of mental health issues now that we're helping people guide through, and there's a lot to sort of sort out. But we have a phenomenal staff who are doing a fantastic job.
Right. And so, I mean, are most of the youth now? When you say youth, what ages are we looking at?
The average youth is 19, but basically 16 to 24. And being the only, the only emergency shelter, anybody who's under 24 would come to us. Then there's the adult shelters. There's other systems for people that are, early on, but 24 and under is pretty much.
Okay. And so now, do they just sort of, do the youth contact you, or are you referred maybe from Durham Police or social services, or all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above. There are youth sometimes who just sort of show up at the door on there's word of mouth, and they'll sort of say, listen, we need help.
Yeah.
There is sort of a process sort of, bringing them in. There is what the region has is a by name list, which basically it keeps track of homeless individuals, and sort of tries to ensure that we keep track of them and try to find resources for them. So in many cases, we'll get referred to from the region, will bring us people or police and things like that. So
yeah. Well, I like the idea of, just not giving them a bed, but actually helping them deal with the issue, and if they have to go on their own, helping them get out on their own, because, that's much better in the long run for, sustainability for the actual youth.
Yeah, and they're and they're young enough that they have enough time that they can turn things around. It'd be kind of sort of blunt is you don't want to get to a situation where you're just sort of housing people and making the process easier. Life's tough. It's tough for everybody. They are dealing with a lot more, and they just need some guidance. They need some help at a very vulnerable time in their life, and very few of them come to us from decisions they've made. A lot of times it's their environment. A lot of it's just, inadvertent decisions maybe that they've made. Nobody chooses to be homeless. It's not a cool thing to do. It's just, they find themselves in a situation that they don't know to get out of. And we can catch them early enough. And by solving it and by being there early enough, hopefully we're setting them up for success, and they're not going to be somebody on the street 10 years, 15 years down the road, or 60 years down the road.
Okay. Have you found over the years, numbers of homeless youth going up or staying the same, going down? What's sort of the trend?
It has. I mean, definitely. I mean, our numbers do fluctuate, and COVID's really thrown a lot of chaos into that in tracking numbers. A lot of with lockdowns, people are just kind of dealing with it, but there is a lot of unspoken issues at home, domestic abuse, drugs, things like that people just in the last couple of years have just dealt with, just head down, deal with. Now that things are open up, we do expect, as do most shelters in the Durham region, we're all expecting a huge wave of people now, the opportunity to actually get out of those toxic environments and be looking for help. So it was a little bit quieter. We did have a steady stream. We managed COVID very well. Considering the potential of having youth on the street that are not necessarily thrilled with the ideas of masks and following a lot of that kind of guideline type stuff, we managed it quite well. But again, we kept our numbers lower and just sort of dealt with that. But on a longer term scale, yes, the Durham Region's homeless issues are escalating quickly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now we've got a little bit of time left, so you've got this event coming up, and I just finished interviewing, of course, Hockey Helps the Homeless, and they're starting for Durham, and you guys are sort of organizing this with them. So maybe give us a little information on that.
Yeah. So we were approached by them, I'd like to say about 2.5 years ago, right before COVID started, maybe about 6 months before COVID started. And they were looking to expand their tournament into the Durham region. They host in, I think, 8 or 9 other cities, Peel, York, Calgary, Edmonton. So they approached us saying, listen, we'd like to move into Durham. It's a strong market, but it's a strong market for players and support, but it's also a market that really needs this kind of support. And they did, I imagine they talked to a number of charities and organizations that work with the homeless. And they selected Durham Youth Services as the recipient for at least the first 2 years as the tournament grows,
right.
Which we're overjoyed to hear. They do phenomenal work. They're a fantastic organization. The tournaments are outstanding. So when we heard about that, we were sort of all on board. And, so the way the tournaments work is the head office, which I'm sure they've told you, is the head office sort of helps each region set up their own tournament. So they leaned on us sort of heavily for getting some of the early stages going and finding volunteers and players and things like that. So yeah, April 22nd in Del Park Homes in Oshawa is our first tournament, first of hopefully many. Hockey Helps Homes has been around for 25 years, and once you sort of get a foothold and once you start getting the tournaments going every year, it just keeps getting better and better and more funds raised. So
yeah,
Durham, sorry, go ahead.
No, and this is a tough time to get something off the ground with,
It is. And we had lockdowns right up until about a month and a half ago. So usually these tournaments take about a year to plan. We really only had maybe 9 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
So it's a lot of scrambling. We didn't have the database of players. We didn't have a database of sponsors. We didn't have a lot of things that most of the tournaments have. So our expectations going in are a little lower. We're not expecting, home run on the first one.
Right.
But I think it's very important to get this tournament going, get people on the ice with some of the NHL guys, some of the people that they grew up watching and idolizing on ice. We want to Clark's joining us for this first one, which is fantastic. I'm going to follow him around like a little puppy, I think, for the whole tournament. We're very appreciative of all the support and help that all the volunteers are doing, and Wendell stepping up to take part in this for us. And it will do a tremendous amount of good for a lot of people that are at a very tough time in their life.
Right.
Growing up, I did know a number of people as youth that were sort of on the street and on their own. And just seeing the right resources and the right people step up have turned their lives around, and the ripple effect of that is phenomenal. So, any dollar we can raise will directly go to help a youth in need and turn their life around. So it's a very great use of funds, basically.
Okay.
To have them come in, and so we're thrilled. So anybody who's interested in playing or volunteering or sponsoring, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Steve. Our time's run out there, but it sounds, Durham Youth Services is doing a fantastic job. And I may have to come down and watch some hockey in April there for the Hockey Helps the Homeless. That sounds like a great event, and good luck with that.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Perfect.
My name is Rob MacArthur, and you're watching Helping Durham Region here on Rogers TV Durham. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.